Now and again, a certain player will come along that you'll see and you'll think, you know what, that's the right player for my football club at this present time. Right player, right place, right now. Last summer, I was convinced it was Ollie Watkins. Watkins was the perfect striker for David Moyes at West Ham United. They get him at all costs, and I was convinced he would be a huge success should we went and purchased him. This summer, it's Scott McTominay. I am convinced Scott McTominay is the perfect midfielder for West Ham United under David Moyes. Now, that last part is key. Under David Moyes. If we had a different manager, I perhaps wouldn't feel as strongly as seeing McTominay in the claret and blue next season. But we do have David Moyes. Moyes is the manager next season. So we need to acquire players that's going to succeed under David Moyes. It's going to fit the way that Moyes plays. And I am convinced McTominay is perfect. Now, we need 2 midfielders this summer. And I'm convinced that he should be one of them. He would be absolutely perfect for us. Now, I was planning on doing this video anyway. Then last night, Scotland went and beat Georgia. 4 wins out of 4 now, 2-0 win. And Scott McTominay scored again. His 5th goal in the qualifiers. Now, the reason I'm adding the Scotland tangent is because it's vital. It's important as to why I desire him at West Ham United so much. The Scott McTominay you see for Scotland is different to the Scott McTominay you see for Man United. So if you're watching this and you haven't seen him play for Scotland, understandably, and you've only seen him play for Man United, I completely get the hesitation. I get the reservation. I get why you're listening to me right now going, what are you on about? I get it. I understand it. But I've seen him play loads for Man U, and I've seen him play every game. For every minute he's played for Scotland, I have seen him play. It's 2 different players sometimes. His roles are different. The ability you see from him is completely different. He is thriving in the current Scotland setup. And I would love to see him do that at West Ham United next season. Now, I was planning on doing videos. We won last night. Scott McTominay scored again, arguably strengthening my case. And then today, Jason Burt has done an update saying that Man United are potentially interested in Declan Rice. They look set to make a bid. And the bid will be cash plus either Harry Maguire or Scott McTominay. Now, I'm unsure if that means West Ham can pick. Would you like Maguire or McTominay in the deal? Which one do you want? And then we'll discuss it from there. Or if Man United have decided they're going to include one of them, they're deciding which one they're going to offer to West Ham. I would take both. I think at this present time, if you offer me what is the ideal scenario for West Ham United. Now, I'm recording this. Romano has done another update saying that Tim Steiden's done, that he's now West Ham's technical director, but there's no official announcement as yet. But right now, what would be ideal for me for Declan Rice, for selling Declan Rice, it would be to Man United, and it would be for a decent bit of money, plus Maguire and plus McTominay. I would like both of them, plus a substantial amount of money. How much? It's difficult to say, really. 50 million, maybe. I'm just throwing that out there. If a Man U fans away get offended, don't. I'm just chucking that figure out. 50 million plus those 2 players. I would bite your hand. I think that would be an incredible deal for West Ham United. It would give us 50 million to go and replace Declan Rice, and we've upgraded 2 positions in the squad at the same time as well. I think it would be superb business. Now, let's focus on McTominay first and foremost, because I was just going to do a video saying why I think McTominay is perfect for West Ham United. Now, let me be very, very clear here. He is not a direct replacement for Declan Rice. He does not come in and do what Declan Rice did, and that is that. When we've been linked to Palhinha's defensive ability is superb. Is it as good as Declan's? Not really. I know statistically it's probably better than Declan Rice's. I do not care. It's different. You can't just go by stats. Declan Rice's tackling is less than Palhinha, but Declan Rice reads the game better. You read the game better, you're going to have to do less tackles. Declan Rice has got more interceptions than Palhinha, for example, which would suggest he reads the game better. But defensively, Palhinha is superb. In terms of on the ball, what you're going to get, it's minimal. You're not going to get very much from him at all. So that part of the game that Declan Rice brings, you're going to lose it completely. And that's why there's a suggestion, well, we're going to have to improve the Thomas Soucek position to get that there. What we're lacking from the defensive midfielder, we're going to have to get it from someone else in the team, and Soucek can't do it. So we need to improve that. But I'll tell you what, McTominay, he's not too shabby. I will say that. He's not defensively as good as Declan Rice. He's not as defensively as good as Palhinha. And that's why I wouldn't want to see him come in and do the defensive midfield role. That number 6 role that Declan Rice has been doing, I don't want McTominay to do that. But I think he can do that. He can cover that role if we needed him to. And he can still do the runs. He can still do the dribbles. If you need an example of it, have a look at Scotland's goals against Norway. 1-0 down in the 86th minute was scored in the 86th and the 88th minute, 2 goals, quick succession. Scott McTominay is involved in both goals. Statistically, there's nothing there. He didn't get the assist. He didn't get it. It's not there. There's nothing statistically to show that Scott McTominay was involved in those goals. But if you just go watch the highlights, you'll see Scott McTominay in the 86th minute running down the right wing and sending the cross in, which then leads to the goal. And then and that's for the winner. This the first one. He's the one that comes through the middle of the pitch. It's a decent through ball, just that Kenny McLean didn't read it. But he's involved in it. Shackles were off Scott McTominay. And last night again, the finish is fantastic. When he was in Man United youth team, he was a striker. You see it. You see it for Scotland. You can see that instinct. He's got it. Is he a striker? No, I'm not comparing him to I'm not saying he's Chicharito, but you can see he's got that little bit of attacking movement in the box, which is what I think we're lacking at West Ham. We're lacking that from a midfielder that does those runs into the box. Paqueta's doing them. Scored for Brazil last night, and a good header he scored as well. Unfortunately got injured too. But McTominay can provide those late runs into the box, but not if he's going to play where Declan Rice played. Declan Rice often did his dribbling forward. He got up the pitch, but he did it knowing that Soucek had his back. And this is why Soucek, I think, has been vital to Declan Rice's progress, as well as bedding Paqueta. On the ball, limited. Soucek's limited. And this is towards the end of the season. I was defending Soucek a lot, saying that we can all pull out statistics, and I do it as well. I'm guilty of it. It's a bit hypocritical of me doing this. But the one thing I thought Soucek was best at was reading the game, was his discipline. When Rice goes forward, he stays back, he goes more central, he covers Declan Rice. You can't measure that. There's no data to show how good Soucek is. When we're defending, he's occupying the space, he's forcing the opposition to move the ball left to right. You can't come through the middle against West Ham. So he might not get a tackle, he might not get an interception, but defensively he's really, really good. But Rice was able to go forward knowing Soucek wouldn't come running up the pitch as well. There's nothing worse, and we've all played football at a lower league level. There's nothing worse than seeing your centre midfielder go up the pitch and the guy next to him is also gone up the pitch. And you're, well, hang on a minute, why have you both gone up? But that's what happens at Sunday League level. You don't expect that at Premier League level. Soucek covered Rice. So McTominay could do what Rice did to some extent, but I don't want him to. Scott McTominay would be the perfect replacement for Thomas Soucek. That's why I haven't said McTominay is the perfect replacement for Declan Rice. I think he's a perfect midfielder for David Moyes, but not to do that role. We would still need a defensive midfielder. And the reason we would need a defensive midfielder is to take the shackles off McTominay. I don't want McTominay. When I watch him play for Man U, sometimes I feel like he is a bit too defensive. That Bruno Fernandes is occupying the space, rightly so. Fernandes 10 times the player McTominay is. But sometimes McTominay is the part of the double pivot in there with Fred. It was at the time the Mick-Fred partnership going on before Casemiro came in. And it wasn't good enough for Man United. But there's no shame. There's absolutely no shame in not being good enough for Man United, but being more than good enough for West Ham. We've had the perfect example 18 months ago with Jesse Lingard. Not good enough for Man U. Comes in, he's our best player for 6 months. The perfect example. Then there's loads of players that do it, that go to Man U, now Man City, Chelsea, Arsenal. They don't make it. They drop down to a West Ham, a Villa, an Everton, whatever. And they succeed. They really excel there. Scott McTominay, I promise you, I feel so strongly about this. You can probably tell. I feel so strongly McTominay would succeed at West Ham under David Moyes in the position, in the role that Soucek's got. Because we have seen Soucek arriving in and around the box. And one of the reasons that Soucek's still included in the team is part of his defensive game, but McTominay does that. But it's also his aerial ability. Soucek in the air is unbelievable, whether it's defending goal kicks, attacking goal kicks, defending set pieces, attacking set pieces. McTominay's good in the air. Is he as good as Soucek? Possibly not, but I'll tell you what, he's not poor. He is strong. He's got the height, he's got the physique, he's strong in the air. So the reasons for keeping Soucek in the team are gone. McTominay provides it. What Soucek's strengths are, McTominay provides that. But what Scott McTominay also does is provides that ability on the ball that Soucek's lacking, and that goal threat from open play. Soucek is a goal threat, but we all know it needs a cross. If Soucek scored, it's probably come from a corner or a free kick or a cross from open play. I'll be surprised if it hasn't come from one of those. McTominay does not need those. He can score from being in and around the box. We've seen him hit bangers for Man United. The guy scored from the halfway line against Man City during COVID, unfortunately for Man U fans. You couldn't witness it. He is such a good player. I would love him at West Ham United, and I hope this rumour's true. A, because I love McTominay, and B, because Arsenal bugged me a little bit with their low ball offers. I've got to the point, and this is how petty I am, I don't want to go to Arsenal, because Arsenal's had a clear shot at Declan Rice. They've had a week or two of they're the only team at the table negotiating, and I feel like they've taken the mickey, quite frankly, with their offers. The club themselves, West Ham, have described the bid as embarrassing. I'm inclined to agree. So for that reason, I've got to the point now where even yesterday I was like, I don't really care where he goes as long as we get most money. But today, I woke up with a little bit of like a petty streak in me. I'm like, do you know what? I hope he doesn't go to Arsenal. I hope he goes somewhere else now. You've had your chance. You've blown it. Then I see this update from Burt, which is, man, you're offering cash plus McTominay. Oh, please, just please be true. I would love it. As for Harry Maguire, I'd take him at West Ham. I really, really would. With the African nations coming up, we're going to lose a guard for the foreseeable future. We know Kurt Zuma's unreliable in regards to fitness. Kurt Zuma will play 25 games next season in the Premier League. He will probably play 25 to 30 games. He will miss at least a third of games. I think you have to accept that. So you've got to have a plan. Naturally, his replacement at the minute is Thilo Kehrer. I don't have an issue with that. But Thilo Kehrer is also the replacement for Vladimir Coufal. So let's just say match day 1, we line up with Coufal right back, Zuma next to him, and then a Gerd centre back. Zuma gets injured, what we're doing? Kehrer comes in, naturally. Fine. What happens if Coufal gets injured? Well, Kehrer goes right back next to Zuma. What if they're both unavailable? Well, Ben Johnson then has to come in. Now, either we're going to... That's a gamble. I feel that that's a gamble at this point in time. We don't know what we're going to get from Ben Johnson. I do think we need another centre-back for a cover. And I think Harry Maguire would do well at West Ham. He'd be third choice centre-back probably. He'd back up to a Gerd. And it also means that we can play 3 at the back if we need to. Maguire's got loads of experience playing 3 at the back. Scott McTominay's got experience playing 3 at the back. For Scotland, few and far between, not loads of games. But sometimes Steve Clarke would deploy him as the right centre-back. So he's got experience. He had a couple of bad games playing there. But you have to expect that. You have to allow it. It's a new position for him. But he's got some experience. So it would allow us to be versatile next season, while being quite clever in the sense that our centre midfielder is an option at centre back should we need it to. With the ability on the ball that he possesses, it would give us that runner. Because at the minute, Creswell is the option. We go to 3 at the back, it's Aaron Creswell we like to see on the left hand side so that someone can dribble out in the back. Well, we can't rely on Creswell. Because of Creswell's age, we have to now have a succession plan where Creswell plays if he's in form, but we're not relying on him. I think McTominay in there, Maguire in there would mean that we can play 3 at the back without playing Aaron Creswell. And the last point I will make regarding both of these players is leadership. I think we might need to buy a captain this summer. I've thought for a little while, I'm looking around the squad, and it's difficult because you can only see so much. As a fan, you can only get so much insight. We don't know who the big mouths are in the changing room. We hear things from certain players, whether it's players that's left, players still at the club. They'll talk about leadership. They'll talk about the qualities of certain characters in the dressing room. Moyes will do it as well. So you pick up snippets and you can see things for yourself. But there's not been anything that's made me think, hey, that's the next captain. I mean, if you want to do succession, it's Bonner or Creswell, isn't it? One of those two would be the captain, but neither are guaranteed to play half the games next season, never mind every week. So I do feel like we could do with buying a captain. Now, also Maguire, I don't need to explain why he would bring a certain captain ability with him. I've seen it in McTominay, and I've seen it at Man United as well. Not just at Scotland. I have seen leadership from him. He impresses me in his interviews. And when it wasn't going great under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Man United, he was the one that went on the camera. Scott McTominay stood there and just said, it's not good enough. The players aren't doing good enough. The players aren't trying hard enough. No, we're not playing well. And I was impressed by it. And it's the same again, even last night. And for those that don't know, Scotland played Georgia. After 8 minutes, Scotland scored, made it 1-0. The pitch was soaking. It was really, I'm not seeing a pitch that waterlogged in a long time. So Scotland scored, and UEFA delegate called the referee over. He took the players off the pitch, and then it was basically an hour and a half, just over an hour and a half it took for the game to be restarted. And in that period, the players came out for a warm up. Referee came out, had a kick off at 9 o'clock. Now it's 9:15. Now it's 9:30. It kept getting delayed. The kick off kept getting delayed because of the pitch, but also because of Georgia. Georgia didn't want to play. They decided the pitch is soaking. There's been too long between the game. We don't want to play now. McTominay's interview after is worth a listen. If you listen to him, the Georgian manager said, "Oh, the players hadn't had dinner. They were cold. They were wet. We didn't want to play. The pitch was rubbish." He gave all these excuses to why Georgia did not want to play last night and why they got beat, despite the pitch being the same for both teams. Nevertheless, we'll ignore that. Scott McTominay did an interview, and the mentality was completely different. He said the boys went in the change room, kept their heads, we stayed warm. We wanted out here. We wanted to play. We were ready to go play. We wanted to get out there. And there was a bit when at 9:15, the game was meant to kick off at 9:15, and Georgia didn't come out. So obviously the fans who waited around for an hour and a half with no football at this point are starting to get a little bit tetchy, as you'd expect. You know, people's transport's gone now. That train home, forget it. You ain't making it. The game finished at 11:20. Scott McTominay started leading a round of applause for the fans, as if to say, "Look, we appreciate it that you're still here. We're getting a little bit hacked off and all." He was one leading it, and then after the game, he spoke on camera, and the way he just spoke, the mentality, and it was almost like, do you know what? I'm going to say it. It was Alex Ferguson's mentality. When you hear him speaking, McTominay, who was at Man United when Fergie was there, that's why he plays for Scotland. He's English, I know. Before someone said, "Hey, he's not really," I know he's not Scottish, but Ferguson advised Scott McTominay to go play for Scotland, and he did. He listened to Fergie, and off he went. Thank you, Alex. But you could almost just hear, like, Sir Alex's influence in McTominay coming out last night after all these years. Maybe I'm just way too biased, but to summarise, Scott McTominay at West Ham, I am convinced would be a success, and we would see goals. We would see goals from him. Is he the best player in the world? No, he's not. But we can't buy the best players in the world. But what we can do is improve what we've got. West Ham are, speak of last season being a transition. This season's going to be a transition. We might still play the same, but we're going to have to do it without our best player. Declan Rice was evergreen. Never missed a game. Never missed anything. Always available. Never injured. And that's going to be hard to replace. Not just his ability, not just his leadership and his influence, but also his consistency in regards to level of performances, but also his availability. It's going to be a very, very hard thing to replace. And I don't think we can. So we've got to do the next best thing, which is get a really, really good defensive midfielder in there and upgrade Thomas Soucek. And if we do that, we'll be all right. Scott McTominay, he's a massive upgrade on Thomas Soucek, I think, but he can also cover that defensive midfield role should we need him to. I don't think he's Declan Rice's replacement. What I do think, would be a vital ingredient to whatever the concoction of the midfield is next season. And that's my argument for Scott McTominay. A lot of you'll disagree. Don't care. I'm sticking with it. You're not going to convince me otherwise. Last summer it was Ollie Watkins. This summer it was Scott McTominay. If you enjoyed this video, please do drop a like on it. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. I'll catch you tomorrow.